What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Lions latest video. Today we have a full plate of things that we need to discuss today. First off, training camp observations that we got from practice. The defense continues to be dominant for the Lions. Also, quick little update on Za'Darius Smith, and let's watch some Hendon Hooker against the LA Chargers. Let's dive into the film. So let's get right into it. So the first thing I do want to start off with is the Za'Darius Smith update. It's very quick, so we'll start here first. And Brad Holmes spoke on this on the radio. Now, I think his reasoning or what he said about the situation is kind of what I anticipated, from the sense of, I look at it like this. Za'Darius Smith was more than productive enough to get a contract. If this guy wants to go sign a deal, teams are going to be willing to pay Za'Darius Smith. He's just too good of a pressure piece. Would you like him to be more dominant against the run? Yes. Did he make plays against the run last year? He didn't make plays. He's just not a true tone-setting, edge-setting run defender. But if this guy wanted a deal from somewhere, if he just wanted to be on a team, somebody's going to pay Za'Darius Smith because he's too consistently on the field and he's too consistent as a productive pass rusher. From the Lions side of things, I also didn't see them, maybe be willing to budge off whatever that number that they had laid out there for him. However, the more that you look into this, what Brad Holmes said, I think is really what the situation is here, is that there is no real rush for Za'Darius Smith to sign a contract, right? The ball is in his court, right? There's two sides of this. He can make that decision wherever he wants to sign. Now, maybe the Lions are a little bit like, hey, this is how much we're willing to pay. And I think that's very much so possible, right? They've kind of told us that a while back. But I do think that if he truly wants to be back here, he'll end up being back here. Brad Holmes told us this. Za'Darius Smith did a lot of good things for us last year. And we said we are going to keep contact with his agent. But everything's not just one-sided. Za'Darius has expectations. The team has expectations. So sometimes it takes a while for those things to get on the same page, especially a guy that has been in the league as long as he has. I'm not saying he doesn't want to be in training camp, but if he misses some time, there's obviously still some interest there, and we've been keeping in touch. So from that element, at his age, I truly do believe that's what it is, right? I think it's 100% what it is. What is the rush for him to get to training camp for the Detroit Lions, right? Like, you want to be there at some point to build some continuity, but his role for the Lions, I don't think they want to envision it as he has to be the three-down starter. I think they believe they have their three-down starters across the board when healthy. But the Lions clearly have an opening as, hey, it's third down. Who can step inside and give us some juice? Who can open up some things as a stunt rusher? We don't have Josh Paschal right now. We don't have Mekhi Wingo right now. Who can add that element? That's an opening on the team right now. I truly believe that's just an opening, right? There's no Ali McNeil. So if you just think about it from a third down perspective, there's no Levi. Who's that guy on the inside, right? It's either going to be Tyleek, keep Aiden Hutchinson on the edge. So Roy Lopez could mix in, but he's not a dominant rusher. He could just give you some juice, but his real value comes from rundowns where he can create some juice as a rusher. So that's an open position clearly for the Lions. Lions could put Ahmed in there. He could give you a little something, open up some stunts, that kind of thing. But that's an open spot, clearly. So his role at the smallest role would be that. He would immediately come in, he'd add value on third downs, he'd rush the passer. And then, of course, at some point, maybe he does become that. If something pops up, he could become that full-time player. But he can be a more of a rotational piece. And I think both teams potentially could get on the same page of that. Unless he wants to go be a full-time starter somewhere, then maybe this just doesn't get done here, because here at best, I believe that when healthy, he's just going to be rotating in and out with like Davenport, or maybe a little bit at times with Hutchinson. But that would be his true role, is, hey, sub package, they're passing the ball, get on the field. You can play on the inside. You've done that. You were very successful with Cleveland. You can do that for us as well. So ultimately, I think that's exactly what it is. It's in his court. He's not in a rush to sign a deal. The guy can get a contract. He wants a contract. It's not like there's no interest out there. I just truly don't believe that's the case. And it's not like the Lions aren't interested. I don't think they're willing to spend anything to bring him in. I don't think they are in a spot where they feel they have to sign Za'Darius Smith. I think they like their defensive front, but they understand that you could add more juice to that, right? Brad Holmes understands that. He was good for us last year. He seemingly, character-wise, fit in incredibly well. We love Za'Darius. I thought when we initially signed him, the fact that he had the second year on his deal was a huge value. So I think ultimately, if he wants to be back, he's going to end up being back. And I take that away from this update. It doesn't guarantee anything, because both sides do need to make this happen. But I think ultimately, if he wants to be back, he's going to be a Lion. So that's the first thing I want to start with. Now, we need to look at Hendon Hooker. Let's dive into Hendon Hooker's throws from this game, because as always, you rewatch the film and you get different takeaways, right? You feel differently about what you saw live versus what you saw when watching it back. The short yardage situation, the Lions needed 3 yards, and this turned into a Hendon Hooker scramble where you ended up being a yard short, and it was a turnover on down for the Lions offensively here, going forward on fourth down. Now, here's the key that stands out to me. First off, you come out offensively in this 3-by-1 look, and I immediately am thinking cover zero, just by how they're aligned, right? Safety rolls over the tight end. They're stacking the line of scrimmage. This is a true cover zero look. Now, again, we're not maybe getting into the exact schematics of what the expectation is, so how can we get out of it? You also seeing there's not a lot of pre-snap movement. It's pretty straightforward, right? There's not really looking for seemingly that many indicators. So because of that, you get this cover zero look that at snap jumps into a Tampa 2 coverage. A lot of teams do this. That's what they do here, right? They jump into Tampa 2. This is typically something in the past at times has given us real problems because we have a man beater and then they go to this. However, this play was different because this one didn't look maybe specific for, oh, we had a rub route and it wasn't there. Or maybe this was specifically for expecting Tampa 2. It didn't feel like that. It just felt like we had a short route concept on one side and we had a one-on-one concept on the opposite side, and we had to play through that. And on this snap, Hendon Hooker is going to go to the right side of the field. He's going to go to that 3-by-1 side, and he's going to work the slot and the vertical route, kind of that Ohio concept at the bottom of the screen. What stood out to me was this. Going into Tampa 2, the window is clear, right? Because you have an outside corner who's going to play outside in. So he wants to squeeze that thing inside, take away the sideline, which means that the window is Dominic Lovett settling himself down in the out route. Who does this incredibly well against cover 2? It's Amon-Ra St. Brown. He constantly does this well, and the quarterback's always on the same page. He snaps that route, doesn't feel the defender. You can see him right in front of you where he's at, and you snap that route down, and you're open, and that's the tight window you now have to throw it into. That's adjusting your route based on the coverage. That's that football intelligence that shows up as a route runner. As you see, Lovett doesn't do that. Lovett runs through his route, runs himself into coverage before eventually kind of settling himself down in the window. But if you're watching Hendon Hooker, St. Brown gets down a lot faster here. If you watch Hendon Hooker, while he ultimately did settle down, Hooker looks like he's ready to let this thing rip. And Lovett continues to push through, then ultimately the traffic is there. So while he did settle down eventually, it just wasn't as on page. And then on top of that, you had your outside receiver stumbling, so there's nothing there. So you see Hooker rolls that way. I think if you get like a quarters look or you had a cover 3, you could potentially look towards the outside at the top of the screen, right? If someone can't get underneath the one because he's singled up, so it's essentially just a one-on-one opportunity, then in that spot, I think that's where the ball could be looked to go here. But you have a high-low against a deep out. I don't think you're typically going to look that direction. So he cuts that field away, and then he takes off. And when he takes off, there's really not a lot of places to go with the ball. So he scrambles, doesn't get the first. So while there was a slight window that kind of opened late here that he could have tried to rip it into, at that point it didn't make sense, right? It wasn't maybe the best setup for the scheme that we got defensively, but the window could have been there. It's just that's kind of the nuance that you get with experience and the vets and guys working together. Let's go to another play here, and this is one where this was one of the weirdest ones to me. I couldn't exactly tell what the heck happened on this play, I'll be honest with you. Defensively, they almost give you what looks like a cover 3 look here pre-snap. That eventually is going to jump into a man coverage. You're going to get like a cover 1 straight up here. But it looks like cover 3, and you can see at the bottom that nickel corner who's playing over the 2 before the snap slides out. He's going to take the 1 here of the stack. So he's going to take the outside man of the short stack here, and then you're going to have the vertical route, which is going to be that number 2 receiver ran by Ronnie Bell, which is picked up by the outside corner. Now, even in cover 3, you would expect that as well, that he's going to pick up the vertical route in a spot like this. But I think that switch may have had something to do with how this got set up. The other thing that stands out to me, so Ronnie Bell is going to get off the line. He's going to speed release. He's going to run this inside push with an in breaker. Okay, he's got that outside leverage corner. He's going to run that off. But you're going to notice he gets his eyes back to the quarterback really late on this play. He also settles his route. He doesn't run through his route like you would think in a cover 1 spot, right? And obviously Hendon Hooker leaves the pocket, but he settles his route down when Hooker gets out of the pocket. Typically, if I expected that they expect this is man, he's still going to continue running his route through. He breaks that down with having that cornerback kind of chilling way off of him, right? If you're expecting that it's man, you're probably going to run that through. He runs it almost as if they're anticipating zone, because if you notice, both Dominic Lovett and Ronnie Bell snap the routes off at the same time. Bell is timing it up with Lovett. Lovett runs a really pretty route one-on-one on the outside. He snaps it off really well, creates really good separation. They snap it off at the same time. My assumption is this was more so of like, hey, cover 3 kind of beater here, right? We're going to be in a spot where these guys are going to break at the same time. They're going to have to pass this off, and we're going to have a window that Bell can sit down into, because if that outside corner gets it to the safety, and on top of the safety or underneath the safety is Dominic Lovett, then you're in a spot where Bell can just settle in, and he's going to be wide open. They're going to have to be forced to carry this. Now, I still think clearly this ball should have been thrown. Because if you watch from Hendon Hooker, when he takes that deep drop, he has him open, right? There's no one over the middle except for that one rat backer. But I think that's what's important with this play. Because if you notice, if this was a true cover 3 zone spot dropping across the board, that rat backer that just drops out and starts to gain depth, he would be in a spot where he's probably going to step down against a drag route, right? Because it's going to be dropped off. He's probably eventually going to step down against a drag route. Instead here, he's just floating over the middle and following Hendon Hooker's eyes on a play like this. He still is shallow enough where I still think this ball should be thrown. Ball should be thrown, I believe, here, and Lovett would have been probably your best spot to do it. But with how the route concepts are set up, there's not really a great window here to hit Lovett unless you hit him through his break at the top of the break. If you rip that in there. But bell continues to float across, and then he just settles down. This feels like a zone beater that got man coverage essentially on this play, so everybody's just matching across the board here. That also, on top of that, you see the free safety doesn't pass anything off. You have a rat backer that seemingly throws it off, and Hooker just doesn't trust it. He doesn't rip it, and he just gets out of the pocket and scrambles for 5. That is one where I just felt like something just was off on that play. The ball could have been thrown, but something was off. But I like the routes that were ran. We'll go to another example here. Here was our third down. This was the sack that we took. And seeing this back, completely understand why he took the sack here. You're going to get a cover 1 look again on this play with that one rat backer settling over the middle with the blitz on top of it. And you can see Mason Miller gets beat. That turns into the sack. Now, if Hendon Hooker got them into a check by this before the play, this is outstanding. But if you do notice at the bottom of the screen, that nickel corner is going to cheat to the outside receiver, just like we saw in the last play, where they eventually go man, but he's taking the 1. Now the over top corner takes the 2. So they switch those assignments pre-snap, getting back to the man coverage. And that's the reason why Lovett gets so open on the drag, is because how they're matching their assignments one-on-one. But you notice you get the same wrinkle by the defense pre-snap once again. This drag route, working in kind of a condensed split here, and he gets himself open, and Hooker recognized that. Everybody else is running curls to the sticks. He runs the drag. It gets man covered, so he's going there, lets him pass the rat backer, and he's ready to throw it, and it just doesn't come out because of that pressure on Miller. We've seen that a lot. That's just a timing thing where the ball can't come out because as you're going to throw, that defender's right on your right arm. So he protects it and goes down with it. Again, Dan Campbell told us it's okay to punt. So that's one of those plays where that kind of sticks in my mind here. It's okay to punt and maybe don't take a forced fumble on that play. It's unfortunate. This was one of the goofiest plays, though, to me, because this one was seemingly just a clear out to create 2 receivers potentially getting open here, right? It's a play action boot, but every route is being ran to the opposite side of the field. So either this is a design throwback where you're running basically a deep corner route at the bottom of the screen and you're dragging and running a deep crosser and you're trying to throw back. So you half roll one way, you throw it back across the other field, or what you're trying to do in this cover 3 look is you're just isolating the 2 guys on this play, the beneath route from Zach Corton and then the chip delay into the flat by Kenny Yeboah. That's the other option here. And I think that's what it was. It was just, we're going to clear out this side of the field. We're going to boot out of it with the hard fake. Everybody's going to go that way. And then we're going to have a really 2 easy options for Hooker. Well, Zach Horton's taken away because that backside flat defender just settles in. He doesn't carry anything. He's there. The crosser behind ends up pulling the linebackers back. This is where I want to see Hendon Hooker be patient. He's out on the move. He's in space. If he's just a little bit patient, maybe resets his feet, settles himself back, he's going to have a wide open tight end for the first down as the second check down essentially on the play. We've seen Goff do this a lot. Instead, he attacked so aggressively towards the outside like he was ready to just take off and run. He seemingly was just trying to put that flat defender in a, hey, you got to make a decision. Oh, you want to pick him up? Great, I'm just going to run for it. So it seemed like his mindset was, mentality was, I'm just going to run for this. I see him covered. That's my instinct to take off. But the defender plays it pretty well. The flat is bumped, and then Hooker gets so tight to the defender that he can't also then flip the ball to his tight end. So he takes a sack. That was a bad play by Hendon Hooker. He just pressed it too aggressively. Instinctually, I think he told himself, I'm going to take off, but it was just not clearly the spot to do that. And if he would have been more patient, I think he would have had the route open, ended up being a positive gain for us. What I did like is a play like this. Lions go into a straight, basically a 4 verticals look here. Again, they're getting cover 3, this time a cover 3 blitz. They have 3 underneath defenders, and they're going straight 4 verts. I really like the route here from Lovett, the stem push, upfield, running the seam. Hooker tries to hold on to the last second here, and you're going to see that this thing is going to open wide open because that free safety is jumping over top of the number 2 receiver, which means that number 3 receiver, as he crosses the backers, is wide open. However, he doesn't have the time to make that happen. So I like how Hooker stood in there pretty aggressively, waiting for it to pop open, and he got the check down out last second. It was a pretty solid ball, got a short gain, but I did like his patience here to stand in, try to let it develop, and ultimately know where his check down was, and he was able to wait to the last second. I thought that was really good composure by Hendon Hooker on that play. Here was the pass that we all said, where was he throwing the football? And at first, I thought maybe this was just poor depth by Lovett, where it was like, hey, you probably should have pushed that about 5 yards further because this was a 3rd down, and the fact that you ran this about 5 yards short of the first down doesn't seemingly make a lot of sense. You're running like a deep overball, but you ran it short of the first. Even if you catch this, we're probably still punting. But seeing it back, seeing the timing with Hooker, I don't know, and he seemingly saw Lovett on this play. I don't actually know that that was the case. More so, it's just maybe a bad throw. What I did like, though, however, was 1, the decision-making, and 2, the eyes, right? Hendon Hooker is showing that kind of composure specifically, even if it didn't show up a ton in this game. They're going cover 3 buzz here, so that left safety is going to roll in, and you can see sometimes by alignment, this time they don't really show it as much. Safety rolls down, Hooker reads the safety, and you're going to see from the backside view here, watch him put his eyes on that rolling safety. hold the safety with his eyes, and essentially he's going to try to no-look this deep over ball to Dominic Lovett, who settles himself down. He wants to throw it away from his defender, but hold that safety. That way he has a window to fire it into. And when he holds that defender, he then, in turn, misses his receiver way over top. He just wasn't accurate with the ball when he wasn't seeing the receiver as cleanly, and his follow-through just took him that way. Like, he followed through to where the ball went. He didn't really follow through to the receiver. So, mechanically, it was just messy when that was the case. If Lovett pushes this 5 yards further, one, I don't think it's that open. But two, on top of that, it would get to the sticks, and it probably would have been better ball placement. So, at first, I thought that was maybe the case, but ultimately seeing it back with the timing of when Hendon Hooker did throw this, he waited for the route to set, and then he threw it. It makes me believe that that wasn't the case. Maybe if Lovett slides a little bit closer to the middle, it's got a chance, but it's so high, I don't think this is getting caught regardless. And remember, Hooker's a tall dude. Lovett's not the tallest guy, so he needs to keep that ball down. And one thing that Hooker has shown issues of is sailing level 2 passes. Even level 1, he will sail passes, and this is a great example of him just sailing a pass. Let's stay on the offensive side of the ball here. Let's go to some of these quick throws, because some of these were pretty good. Again, rolling in, cover 3 buzz here. You can see the opening pre-snap, and Hooker does a nice job. You see the footwork. They're kind of not doing like 3-step drops or 1-step drops. They're kind of doing 2-step drops. That right foot kick back, he goes into a little bit of a hitch, and then a 1-2-step drop, and then he's got the ball out. You see the ball kind of sails on him a little bit here. The follow-through, I just don't think is getting down aggressively enough, but in terms of the read on the play, it's good, right? You can see the flat jump outside. Once he does, settles himself, gets the shoulder square to the receiver, puts it down, and he picks up a medium gain. Let's see a good similar example to that. Again, just a straight hitch flat or curl flat on this play. Same look. This one's really good. He holds a defender, and he looks off the right progression here. This is a full progression read, right? We can go 1, 2, 3 on this play with the backside dig. Watch the eyes on this one. So first things first, we'll get that 2-step drop, 1, 2. We're going to look to the flat. Flat defender gets out there again in cover 3 with the buzzing safety. Now he's got to look back to the hook curl defender. That all of a sudden, that backer is where his eyes are going to go. He holds that defender and fires the hitch. So it's a little bit later when it comes out, but that's because he's holding the defense here. It's a really good job. I think this was probably the best throw of the game from Hendon Hooker outside of the shot at the end. That was really nice by Hendon, right? Because you see these plays, and even if you miss throws, you can tell he's seeing more of the field, right? Like, he's understanding, if this is the route concept, what coverage am I getting, and who are the defenders in the area, right? Who are the guys that I have to account for? That way I'm not throwing blindly, like, oh, he's not there, throw it. Like, he's accounting for a much wider vision of the field, which I think is the biggest positive to take away. Even to the shot play here, right? Cover 1 defense, it's a quick read. He gets it out too. 1, 2-step drop, ball's out. It was just underthrown, in my opinion here. Again, the follow-through isn't great because of some of the pocket push, but he just leaves it a touch short on this play, a little bit underthrown, and it falls incomplete. What makes me think is, though, Hendon Hooker can throw the deep ball. He can definitely throw that, and he's got easy arm talent. But it's the level 2 throws and mechanically being able to sync your footwork with also not being being able to keep the ball down. I think that's the key for him. Clearly, he just sails too many throws. It's the last play, and I think it builds off it really well because both of these plays you're seeing, he's getting the ball out early. It's on time. He's not holding the ball trying to be a hero. He's recognizing coverage. He's getting the ball out, and I can appreciate that. There's seemingly been a clear emphasis on getting his footwork right. However, they can make that work. Look here, you get a true like 3-step drop on this play, but this is a 4th down and 2. I just thought this was interesting across the board. Defense goes cover 6, and we go deep. I just thought that was kind of weird. I don't know if they got to this as a check or what they were doing here. It kind of looks like maybe that was the case. Regardless, though, they get this cover 6 look, and it's a good look for the coverage, so it works. So if he checked to this is a good call. Because what he's getting here with the 2 deep safety, and if this was cover 2, this would have worked better. If he was getting with the cover 2, if you're getting with cover 2, is you're putting that backside safety in a bind, right? You're having your receiver release inside and push that safety, and then you're going to have an outside receiver. So someone's going to have to carry on this play. So you get this cover 6 look, and it works. You get a safety isolated with your receiver in the slot, who is Dominic Lovett, who runs this route well. Good push up the stem, and then he's going to break back inside. And then on the backside, your safety's occupied by a vertical route. So it gets a one-on-one with the safety. This is a matchup you want. So it's a good matchup. Typically, it's a good read, and we don't really have a lot of short things going on here. So, yeah, I mean, you can say, oh, just check it down, take your yards. I'm not mad at this, though, because if we take the situation out of the play, the route concept against the coverage does make sense, and it's a good matchup on paper. So he recognized the matchup. The timing's on point. When he's throwing this ball, the receiver is breaking his route. He's not waiting to see it. He's throwing it at the break. And because of that reason, Lovett's able to run underneath it, track it. He just doesn't catch the football, rolls through his hand, turns into a pick. But, of course, that's not a bad play by Hendon Hooker from the sense that where the ball was put. So, clearly, we see he can throw the deep ball with ease. Makes me excited to see, let's be patient in some spots, right? I'm also curious to see more of these route combinations because some of these are unique. But at the same time, I think Hooker was okay in this last game. Like, it wasn't that bad. It was actually real positives, and I love seeing his eyes fly around like that. To me, it tells me he's seeing a lot more of the game. He's got a better sense of understanding what he's getting, and it did look like he got us into some really good looks. Go to the training camp notes. We'll kind of quickly fly through these today, but really it was all about the defense today from what we heard is that they have a Aiden Hutchinson rule, essentially, which is, hey, Aiden Hutchinson's going to blow up plays. So when he does blow up plays, we're not always going to count it, right? So when Aiden Hutchinson does get a sack, we won't always actually consider it a sack because he's going to do that a lot. Not only Hutchinson, but also others. Hutchinson had a sack when they were going through their 11-on-11s, which they just continued to drive because it would have shut down the drive on a third down, essentially making it 4th and long. Also, I believe that happened with Kirby Joseph as well. So I get that, but it also means Hutchinson's going crazy. He's also been doing a lot of work against our left tackles, which I just find interesting. It seems like he may get a lot more of that work this season. I don't know if they're just trying to test and stress our left tackles or if that's what we're going to see a lot more of this season. Because in the past, typically he lines up against the right tackle. He's got a lot of that this year, in training camp at least. And Giovanni Manu's getting that matchup. Sounds like it's been a little up and down. Working with Christian Mahogany, there was some fiery moments, I guess, in there of those two, just working together, picking up stunts, communicating. To me, I thought we did the Manu video. Like, Manu showed a lot of promise individually. But as a group, that's what it's going to be about because the Lions did not pick up games that well in this last game. That was the big thing. Too many times we just allowed free rushers. That second and third unit just allowed free rushers 3 or 4 times on the same blitz. So that stuff does need to be picked up, and it's everybody being involved in that. So as a whole here, I can understand that completely, and just losing the Hutchinson is understandable as well. But it sounded like one of the situational drills was 3:41 to go, and offensively, they were just shut down. They went 4 and out. St. Brown had a drop, which was noted, as today we had a few drops, which isn't typical of these guys. We usually, I think last year we had the least amount of drops in football. So St. had a drop. We also had a couple of short passes. Then we also had a drop by J-Mo, who's running away from DJ Reed on a crosser. So you had 2 drops that were thrown in there. Hutchinson, again, had a sack. It sounds like Alex may have also had a sack as well. They said that Jahmyr Gibbs had a beautiful grab on Jack Campbell one-on-one. I guess ran like a deep wheel route. It was a beautiful ball. Made a great contested grab. So it is good to hear that they're connecting on those. Like in the past, they wouldn't always connect on those. I hope that means that we're going to connect on more of those more consistently because it just has been something that we've been super efficient with in the past. It gets open, but it doesn't always connect. So it sounds like they're actually connecting and, again, sticking to the idea of using Gibbs in the pass game. He's so good there. It's such a clear mismatch. He had that at Bama. I thought that's why it would cook so much in the NFL, but, it does take time. You have to still build that connection regardless of what position, and because he's running back, it's just not like he's always in that role. But I think by this time in the NFL, John Morton's recognizing, and he's recognized, this guy is a matchup issue. And I think Ben got that sense last year, too, of like, okay, we got to do this more. Like, at some point, we got to make this more complex because one of our easiest matchups is him against anybody that's not a corner, and corners aren't going to match up with him. That's an amazing matchup for us, outside of the fact that he's just not like 6'2". It's an amazing matchup for us. So he had a great grab. St. Brown ended up scoring a touchdown with 1:21 as they ended up, again, kind of just letting the drill go after 2 sacks anyway. Khalif Raymond in the red zone drills, which were shut down by the defense today. And remember, they're doing this without Terrion, without Rakestraw. So they're doing this specifically with DJ Reed and Amik Robertson out wide, which, I'll be honest, if I didn't know Terrion and Ennis were on the team and you said that's your 2 wide corners, I'd be like, man, we're pretty good at corner. I still think Amik was better last year out wide, but even on top of that, I do like, again, him kind of living in the nickel. But the point is he can play that. So that's a really good starting combo. Those two, if you didn't include anybody else, if that's what I knew, red zone defense, force a 3 and out, and then the next time around they end up scoring late because of a Khalif Raymond back of the end zone 4th down touchdown. And their next part of the situational drill was 56 seconds, no timeouts, and it was batted pass by Aiden Hutchinson at the line, followed by an interception by Avonte Maddox on a tip pass off of Jameson Williams' hands. I guess he just dropped it, tipped it into the air. So a lot of that stuff, but at least be opportunistic, take the ball away. I love that. It sounds like Avonte's continuing to get safety work in that sense. Maybe mix into the nickel a little bit today with where we're at corner, but Avonte at safety, I just think he's going to be so much a bigger playmaker there because he's so aggressive downhill and he has a feel for the game that being at safety, being able to just lurk behind things, I think it's just going to make him more of a playmaker than he is. He can cover, but I think that gives him much more upside to not as much about being sticky, but instead being more instinctual. And I think he's going to take the football away a lot. I think he's just built for safety. He reminds me so much of CD Dew specifically. I think even a player brought that up. Some of the notes that they gave us on some of the line changes, Tristan Colon working second team left guard. He's just showing flexibility. Tristan Colon's going to make this team. Like, I feel very comfortable saying this dude's going to make this team. Working second team left guard, which meant that Michael Neese got second team center. And going back through today, Michael Neese actually did pretty well in this past game at left guard. He was playing left guard. So if Tristan Colon moves up, someone's got to play center. They're putting Michael Neese there. I think that's fair, actually. I thought Michael Neese did pretty well in this past game. He wasn't dominant, but he was a pretty fluid polar. I think he fits better at center because I think that his skill set translates better to center. He's not a big-time people mover. He's not a big drive blocker. So I think that actually fits him better. and I did a short on Bleacher Report, so definitely go check that out, where I talked about 5 sleepers making this team, and Ian Kennelly was included. There's some film that I have for that as well, because he had a really strong game. He had like 5 tackles, but one guy I definitely included was Tristan Colon there, and Michael Neese was someone that I really considered putting on that list. Grant Stewart still working kick return. That was a bad first start, but that doesn't mean he's not a good returner just because he fumbled once. Let's just not do it again, because you do it again, then I really do believe it'll be the end. But I think they want to see something there. That's why they put him back out there the second time around. Kingsley Egukan, because of that, is working as a third string center. Second unit ended up having a tip pass line of scrimmage by Keith Cooper Jr. It sounds like he's flashing a lot more in training camp, so hopefully that translates to the game. But that was followed up by some good offense. Jackson Meeks with a 16-yard reception, followed by a couple of passes tossed into jump ball situations to guys like Tesla that were both incomplete. Tyson Russell was targeted on both of those. Both fell incomplete, though, did his thing on a jump ball situation, which he also did in the preseason as well. So he should be good in those spots, I guess, and it sounded like both times he was in a good spot. To me, I hope this also means that they were communicating well defensively, because after seeing that Hooker film, he clearly has a feel for what he's seeing on the field. Like, he's not blind to reads. So because of that reason, hopefully this means we're getting really strong communication and we're just not having breakdowns in the back end, and that we're forcing these jump ball throws, because we did see the safety seemingly played well. It's just connecting it with the backers. But that's the big step for the second preseason game in my eyes. So ultimately here, defense continues to dominate. That's really a story across the league. That's not new, but it does continue my excitement for where this defense is going to be this season. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a very good defense, and Hutchinson continues to dominate. And even, yesterday we heard, Tyleik Williams, 2 big plays to the quarterback, taking his guy back to the quarterback. So you got to get that offensive line right. Without Decker, we need to get that right. We absolutely have to. But if you're at the point where it's like, we're just going to keep drives going because Hutchinson's killing our left tackles, that's a problem for the left tackles. It's also kind of amazing because Hutchinson is that good. Like, he should be beating up the left tackles, but to that extent, that's a problem. That's a problem. So these guys are getting the best practice, but it needs to dial in. I would also point out, aside from just communication breakdowns up front, if you're trying to balance, is it Hutchinson, is it Manu / whoever else is playing at left tackle, you'll get a great sense of that this weekend against Atlanta, playing Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. and the investments they've had with Braylon Trice. They have tons of young mid-round to high-round investments on that edge position. We are going to get tested constantly, and either it's going to look horrendous or they're going to show that they can hang, and that Aiden Hutchinson is just that good right now.